My time streaming and making videos has led me to play games at a rate I could not predict. I am not just playing games you find on the front page of YouTube, Steam, or Twitch. Some of the most creative games can be made without executives yearning for profits. There's nothing wrong with enjoying a AAA game, but I am here today to list 10 games that should be played by more people. A few rules. I qualified a game for this list if it has under 500 reviews on Steam. Is that an all-encompassing metric to gauge the full number of players? Of course not, but I am primarily a PC gamer and that's what I use here. I made sure to show all of the platforms that the game is available on though. Now when I say everyone, I mean both gamers and casual gamers. A casual gamer may not identify themselves as one, but they can comfortably talk about the games they like or are currently into. I also made sure to keep from recommending games that have features casual gamers may not enjoy. High levels of difficulty from games like Elden Ring or Celeste come to mind. These are games that I think would be universally liked. No 2024 games are on the list. I do not think it's fair of those released this year that haven't reached a big enough audience. I'll save that list for December. Not every viewer games with their families, but it works out that all my recommendations are family friendly. I'm not saying that they are only for families, they just happen to be great games that can be enjoyed with children watching. In the description, there's links to the channels of C.A. Brown and Olexia. They've done many videos similar to this and have recommended games I had never heard of. Their stuff has encouraged me to work on this video, so check out their channels for even more hidden gems. But enough intro, here are the games. Wilmot's Warehouse was the game that inspired me to make this list. I revisited it and thought more people need to play this game. I got it years ago from my wife, who admits she's a type A person. She's the type of person that organizes her belongings and finds joy from it. That is the gist of the game. Organizing hundreds of symbols with your own methods of sorting. It does it with very simple gameplay that nearly anyone can pick up. You move around, you pick up items, you rotate them, and set them down as you like. I would leave for my real job, work my full shift, return, and she played the entire day, sometimes spending over an hour without fulfilling orders that the customers want and just organizing her stuff. And there's Borky. He's a robot in the game who will put newly delivered goods somewhat close to the same goods. You end up with a love-hate relationship with Borky. Sometimes a game can be comforting in play, and that's what Wilmot's Warehouse does for it. It just got a board game that I may cover one day on the channel. I first played Drink More Glurp during my original Blood Drive marathon in 2022. If I were to boot the game up today, it hasn't lost its luster. What it does is combine Olympic-style events with the classic game QWOP and makes it multiplayer. And it allows for 20 players to play since each person takes their own turn. The entertainment comes from trying to overcome what should be a simple task. Watching gamers fail and parents surprise you with their abilities provides tons of laughter. You struggle with things like walking forward 5 feet, adding the ridiculous sponsorships that modify the events, and you have a good concoction of a game that entertains everyone, even those who just watch. And by ridiculous, let me give you an example. Lavish bath bombs, which ensures all the competitors are showered with bombs during their event. And no, I didn't describe them wrong. Bombs, not bath bombs. In the infancy of my stream, Luckitown came out and really blew me away. My first exposure to sock pop games was Simuland, but Luckitown stuck with me for a number of reasons. The dice stayed in my mind because of my background board game, and my wife's family has a true affinity for Yahtzee. A lot of people compare to Luckitown. That wasn't the main feature that had me coming back though. Compared to the chaos of other tower defense games, enemies can only move once you roll your dice. You spend your resources as you want, keep the dice you don't want to re-roll, and then you re-roll the other dice, and the baddies get closer to the tower, or attack your other buildings. If you leave the game playing, eat lunch, and come back, the enemies stay in the same place the whole time until you chuck the dice. It feels unique without adding a ton of quick thinking that one might think from a tower defense game. It's very addictive, like a lot of roguelikes, and that's a good thing. Games across the years have featured playable animals, like Stray starring a cat, and Bear and Breakfast seeing a hotel management game starring, you guessed it, a bear. But here it stars a gibbon, also known as small apes, which differ from the great apes such as chimpanzees and gorillas. A key feature of gibbons that differ from great apes is that they form long-term pairs, which Beyond the Trees focuses on. Not only are we learning about the apes, but how they interact with the poaching humans. Combine all this with some outstanding colors and some fluid controls. The game is confined to 2 buttons, one for swinging, the other for running or sliding down slopes. Yet it feels very natural. Gibbon is a great one without an emphasis on complexity. Question I commonly hear from teaching a board game is, that's it? Singled Out would fit in with those games, because what you're doing is trying to find the right person based on their physical traits in a short amount of time. Kill the wrong person or your time runs out and you lose. That's it. I've explained pretty much all of what Singled Out is, and very early on, you will find the criminal in a blink of an eye, but quickly, the game adds in some bystanders that share traits with the criminal. Shoot them and you sigh, like when you make a mistake in an arcade game. A lot of you are probably thinking you have the games on your phone with more to them, but that's the great thing about Singled Out. It is fun without all the bells, whistles, and complexity games can have. And there's a reward for getting to the final level, which I didn't even know until I started working on this video. Developer Matt Glanville has a lot of unique ideas in his game. Singled Out is another unique one with its focus on simplicity. If I were to poll every person on Earth, at least half of the world would know of or have played Tetris. So what if you took the idea of pieces falling from the top and gave it a 45-degree turn? That's the very basic idea of what Miolumia is. It's a very simple change to the formula, but it does a lot for keeping the game unique and addictive. I've always been impressed by very precise T-spins and tucks that you see at high-level play of Tetris. A very similar thing players can do in Miolumia is clearing tiles through allowing their tiles to slide down the walls. The original music matches the game incredibly, and not only can you change the track, but when the music is changed, the sounds of the pieces hitting the bottom changes too. The game has such a good feel with visuals, original music, and a great amount of strategy, all together for a top-tier arcade puzzle game that deserves more praise. It balances the tension of keeping the game going with the relaxing visuals and music. When you think of a game with a competitive scene, you generally think of a fighting game or sometimes a sports game. The basic idea is that it is air hockey, where each mallet has different stats, and there's multiple ways to score. You get a goal that's worth a set amount of points on where you scored, or you score if your opponent doesn't pick up the frisbee in time after a lob. It's a game with character strengths and weaknesses, knowledge needed of character supers and stage differences. There are lots of mind games, plus counters to them with throw types, the disc's trajectory, and slapping the disc. It has a great look while keeping that 90s visuals and colors since the original came out in 1994. While having those aspects a competitive player will appreciate, you can teach it to new players, and they will get it very quickly. It's a really good game to play with friends or in a tournament like I did myself in Genesis 8 in 2022. Some games just have all the things you look for in a game. Trespassers has that for me. Easy to pick up and play, but hard to master. Visuals that are different but feel familiar. Music that you can enjoy without even having the game on. Trespassers feels like a game I would have adored growing up if it was a Game Boy Color release. I love the way the little rat terrier moves, charges his bat for an attack, jumps to avoid the fireball shot at him, and releases the swing with a skull as large as the enemy, appearing to tell you that the battery has been bashed. Part of me is showing bias because OnlyDev allowed me to use their music for my first big video. But what they make always interests me. Their new game You Are Peter Schwartz just released, and Wonky Work will be next later this year. This may be my biggest game recommendation on the video for many reasons. For starters, it's only $5. I spent $5 on a lot worse things. Secondly, it has cross-platform multiplayer. It is a game that has great local multiplayer that is much more than just a party game. It offers depth through variability in stages and characters. Each character feels distinct, having their own advantages through special abilities. And a huge thing that makes each stage unique is how it interacts with players. If the stage is snowing, your character leaves footprints. If the stage has a security system, the cameras follow you even though you're invisible. But it offers in-game and out-of-game depth with those details. Players can be deceptive with things because everything is done without seeing characters. So heavy mind games can